And this is Weaponized.
Congress was pushing for answers. Now, those answers, whatever they are, maybe they're not as good as all we want, but at least they were pushing hard. That was a cool hearing.
Yeah, I guess it's good that it happened at all and that they were asking some good questions. What was disappointing is the response from the Pentagon. Bray and Moultrie didn't seem to know anything about this issue that they'd been called to testify about. You had Representative Adam Schiff who asked some pointed questions, but the hammer came down with Representative Gallagher. We should probably play a clip of that, the kinds of things that he raised questions of that they had no way to answer.
Mr. Moultrie, as the chairman mentioned, DoD had an initiative to study UFOs in the 1960s called Project Blue Book. It's also been well reported in our briefing and in other places that we have more recent projects, specifically ATIP. Could you describe any other initiatives that the DoD or DoD contractors have managed after Project Blue Book ended and prior to ATIP beginning? Did anything also predate Project Blue Book?
So I can't speak to what may have predated Project Blue Book.
So you're not aware of anything in between Project Blue Book and ATIP?
I'm not aware of anything that's official that was done in between those two.
Additionally, are you aware of any other DoD or DoD contract programs focused on UAPs from a technological engineering perspective? And by that I mean, are you aware of any technology initiatives focused on this topic other than initiatives focused on the individual case investigations?
I am not aware of any contractual programs that are focused on anything related to this other than what we are doing in the Navy Task Force and what we are about to launch in terms of our effort.
Same question for you, Mr. Bray.
Same answer, not aware of anything outside what we are doing in the UAP Task Force.
So just to confirm, you're not aware of any technology or engineering resources that have been focused on these efforts besides what we've mentioned today?
Once again, I'll say no contractual.
It's also been reported that there have been UAP observed and interacting with and flying over sensitive military facilities, particularly, and not just ranges, but some facilities housing our strategic nuclear forces. One such incident allegedly occurred at Malmstrom Air Force Base, in which 10 of our nuclear ICBMs were rendered inoperable. At the same time, a glowing red orb was observed overhead. I'm not commenting on the accuracy of this. I'm simply asking you whether you're aware of it and whether you have any comment on the accuracy of that report.
Let me pass that to Mr. Bray, if you've been looking at UAPs over the last 3 years.
That data is not within the holdings of the UAP Task Force.
Okay, but are you aware of the report, or that the data exists somewhere?
I have heard stories. I have not seen the official data on that.
So you've just seen informal stories, no official assessment that you've done or exists within DoD that you're aware of regarding the Malmstrom incident?
All I can speak to is what's within my cognizance, the UAP Task Force, and we have not looked at that incident.
Well, I would say, it's a pretty high-profile incident. I don't claim to be an expert on this, but that's out there in the ether. You're the guys investigating it. I mean, who else is doing it?
If something was officially brought to our attention, we would look at it. There are many things that are out there in the ether that aren't officially brought to our attention.
So how would it have to be officially brought to your attention? I'm bringing it to your attention.
Sure, so,
this is pretty official.
Sure. So we'll go back and take a look at it, but generally there is some authoritative figure that says there is an incident that occurred. We'd like you to look at this. But in terms of just tracking what may be in the media that says that something occurred at this time, at this place, there are probably a lot of leads that we would have to follow up on. I don't think we are resourced to do that right now.
Well, I don't claim to be an authoritative figure, but for what it's worth, I would like you to look into it. And
sure.
If for no other reason, you could dismiss it and say this is not worth wasting resources on.
Will do.
And then finally, are you aware of a document that appeared around 2019, sometimes called the Admiral Wilson Memo or EW Notes Memo?
I am not.
You're not.
Are you tracking?
I'm not personally aware of that.
Okay. This is a document in which, again, I'm not commenting on the veracity. I was hoping you would help me with that, in which a former head of DIA claims to have had a conversation with the Dr. Eric Wilson and claims to have sort of been made aware of certain contractors or DoD programs that he tried to get fuller access to and was denied access to. So you're not aware of that?
I'm not aware, Congressman.
In my 10 seconds remaining, then, I guess I just would ask, Mr. Chairman, unanimous consent to enter that memo into the record.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate it.
I mean, genuinely, I love that guy. So he not only pushed and had the right attitude, he was almost reprimanding the people who were supposed to be studying, this for us, that they didn't know about the nuclear issues that were going on with UAP and UFOs. He was great, man. And also what he did was he put in the congressional record, I'm going to say the Wilson Davis memo, because we know that Eric Davis, everybody knows, Eric Davis did have that meeting. That is what's said. We know exactly when and where and who, whether it's acknowledged by everybody, that is real. The fact that meeting happened is real. And he put that on the congressional record. So Representative Gallagher obviously has good sources and he has good information and he has enough where he feels compelled to push that hard. I was really encouraged by the way he handled the UFO topic. And I suspect from recent things that he's been saying and has come out from his group is that, he's on this. He's not going to put it down.
Yeah, so getting the Wilson Davis memos on the record as part of a congressional testimony and hearing was a huge step, I think, in taking notice that the issue of crash retrievals and reverse engineering is something that Congress is interested in. The Wilson Davis memo, of course, is a meeting that allegedly, I think it really did take place. It took place. It did take place in Las Vegas between Dr. Eric Davis, who was a physicist. He'd worked for the U.S. Air Force. He worked for NIDS, the National Institute for Discovery Science. He became a consultant to both OSAP and ATIP. So he knows his way around the UFO issue. And he was meeting with Admiral Wilson, the former head of the DIA, talking about crash retrievals and how hard it was to gain information and how hard it was to pierce the veil of secrecy surrounding these programs. So that's on the record now. And it's pretty clear of statements that other members of Congress have been making that they're hot on the trail of crash retrievals. And the implications are huge. That there is non-human technology, something from somewhere else, whether it's ET or interdimensional, something that we did not make that crashed, that we've been analyzing, that's been stashed in presumably special access programs, controlled by defense contractors, presumably funded secretly by the public, but in black budget money that not even members of Congress get to see. The implications are huge, not only that our world has a non-human inhabitants and visitors, but also that we've been lied to about this.
Yeah, so people that don't know, so what I understand from the memo is that, first of all, it was Dr. Edgar Mitchell, Sixth Man to Walk on the Moon, a guy that I filmed a bunch with at his home in Florida, and when he died, this memo was in his archive. It wasn't something the public was supposed to see. But additionally, when this got out, it shows this guy Wilson, Admiral Wilson, who I believe was the J2 at the time. The J2 has oversight over all the black budget SAPs. And he was furious that he didn't have access to one of them, let's say, I don't know, at Lockheed. So then he goes in and he's like, hey, I'm supposed to have oversight. And he's met by 5 people, kind of lawyerly type, that says, we got what they call a bigot list, only certain people that can be read in. He's like, no, I'm supposed to have oversight over all of this. And they threatened his career to even bring it up, that they've almost been exposed through auditing before. That's not going to happen again. You can't see the hardware that we have. And he was furious. By all accounts, he was furious. Now, he can deny, and he said in the meeting, if this ever comes up, I will deny it. And to this day, he denies it. But fact is fact, he was there, that conversation was had, and he was stopped. They called themselves the Watch Committee. At least we got somebody watching this shit, because I don't know who's in charge. Is there any adult in the room?
And this is actually, this is the first time I'll be very clear with people about it. It's a big topic of conversation right now. It's called the Wilson Memo. You can look it up. Admiral Wilson met with a scientist who's actually was featured in one of my films. Everybody has been debating whether or not this document of a conversation with a sitting admiral at the time is a real document. It's an actual conversation that happened, and this document is real. Everybody wants to know. The world is going crazy right now in the UFO world. Admiral Wilson meets with this scientist, and they have this discussion, oddly enough, at special projects at EG&G. And if I remember, the document is from 2001. I'm telling everybody right now, it's real. And we'll see, my history is pretty good with saying if something's real or not, right? So here we go. The document comes out. They meet at EG&G Special Projects. In 1989, they stumble into a problem. this happens, they put the technology away and then they bring it back out and see if material science has caught up and if they can make any progress. So this document kind of talks about this process. The big thing I get from it, and a lot of it's vindicating to Bob, and one of the things it's vindicating besides the EG&G thing, is that private industry, so this guy's an admiral, and he says, I found out about your SAP, your Special Access Program. I need to know about it. And he's going to a private part of industry, and he is denied access. And he says, I should be running this program. And they were able to deny him access.
So let's say if Lockheed has a program that's very compartmentalized, only a few people know about, and they've been exploiting non-terrestrial technologies, and they're even telling representatives of our government who are tasked with oversight, you're not on the list. That is a problem. I've talked to other admirals that had equal positions, and they were like, no, you should be able to get in there and you should be able to see it. Fact is, he wasn't. So if that's what's going on, if private industry has got control of this stuff, and there's almost like, and Rubio said this in longer form comments that wasn't aired recently, he said there seems to be some sort of I don't know his exact words, sub-controller group or sub-government within our government that somehow has oversight over this. And that's a scary thought. That's like the idea that we don't have proper oversight, which is what it appears to be.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other implication of this is, who are the keepers of the secrets? Right. Is there a government within our government? Is there a shadow government that decides where this money to keep this secrecy going gets allocated? Is there no chain of custody? Is there no way to track how that money is spent? Who's doing the spending, and who makes the decisions on behalf of the American public about what we're allowed to know?
Right, because it is our money, it is public money. But if people say that, and it never really hits me that hard, it's more like, if this technology is being reverse engineered for US advantage, I get that, and secrets need to be kept. But oh, hell no, not without oversight. That's not a democracy.